Autumn weddings are a little bit better because the temperature is much more conducive. I had an autumn wedding where the chuppah was set up in front of a pond on a large estate. Things went very nicely until about halfway through, when it seemed as if the entire goose population of Ottawa decided to swoop in for a pit stop into the pond behind me. So once they landed, they had to discuss their journey with great enthusiasm. I had to stop everything. I said, ladies and gentlemen, try to ignore the commotion behind me. It's just the pate warming up. So I still, even after I left congregation, I used to do a lot of weddings. I only do one or two maybe every couple of years, only for nieces and grandnieces primarily. But did tons and tons of weddings back in my day. And the worst had to be the outdoor summer event in Philadelphia. I know how these happen. People select a location in the winter or spring and don't anticipate how dreadful it is in the middle of July and August in Philadelphia. I had one wedding, it was 99 degrees out. Everyone stayed in the air-conditioned reception room to the very last moment. When it was time to begin, the ushers first escorted all the elderly people out. Well, they do that as kind of a courtesy, so the older folks can spend just a little extra time in the heat and humidity. The couple dragged themselves down the aisle. When they reached me, the bride looked at me imploringly. She said, Rabbi, it's so hot. Could you please make it a quick ceremony? I said, do you both want to be married? They said yes. I said, you are. Any collection of Jewish jokes always needs to start with the telling of what's called the quintessential Jewish joke. The definition of a quintessential Jewish joke is a joke that a Gentile person may or may not understand, and a Jewish person has already heard. Jewish man had a daughter. She was the apple of his eye, and what she wanted most when she graduated from high school was to go to the University of Arizona to study Indian lore. About this idea, she pardoned the expression, he had reservations. I have to say that. But he sent her there, and what he's afraid of happened during her senior year. She sent him an email, Dad, I met the most wonderful man. We're going to be married. He's a Native American. Well, he was crushed. He cut off the relationship. He no longer had a daughter. A few years later, another email, Dad, I miss you. I want to see you again. And I want you to know we've had a child to whom we've given a Jewish name. His heart melted. He got on the next flight down to Tucson, and there at the airport was his daughter, handsome husband, beautiful little baby all wrapped in a blanket. They hugged, they kissed, they wept. And finally she said, here he is, Pop, your new grandson, Whitefish. My training to become a rabbi took place at the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, Cincinnati, Ohio campus. So you probably understand why we never had any athletic teams. Because there's no way you could cheer for a team with a name like that. Can you imagine? Let's go! Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, Cincinnati, Ohio campus. Let's go! It's not going to work. Imagine watching television late at night. That was the news, now to sports. In the seminary league, it was the Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion, Cincinnati, Ohio, Campus 79, the Jewish Theological Seminary of America 76. See, our time for sports is up. Now the weather. I always enjoyed giving sermons, and I still do High Holy Day services in Philadelphia every year. Love doing it. Most of my sermons last an average of, I'd say, 16 to 18 minutes. If I have something particularly detailed to say, I think I have a right to go on a little bit longer. And I don't mind looking out in the congregation and seeing someone going like this. What bothers me is when I see someone going like this. Woman came up to me one night, she said, Rabbi, your sermon was absolutely superfluous. I said, thank you. Some of them will be published posthumously. Oh, she said, wonderful, I can't wait. I think it was the same woman another time. She said, you know, Rabbi, each one of your sermons is better than the next. During one of my first weeks at the Oneg, a man came up, shook my hand, and said, Shabbat Shalom, your sermon was boring, and he walked away. Came up again, Shabbat Shalom, you didn't prepare very well. Came up a third time. Shabbat Shalom, your sermon was much too long, and he walked away. Finally, I went over to the president and I said to her, excuse me, who is that gentleman standing off there by himself? She said, don't pay any attention to him. He has some problems. He likes to walk around repeating everything he hears. There's a lot of stories from our town. I have been reading up in the history. Apparently, right after World War II, a lot of people from the cities began moving up there for vacation purposes, rehabbing old houses, building new vacation homes. And there was a church that hadn't been used for decades that they also fixed it up and began holding services during the summertime. And after a while, they decided they really would like to ring the bell to call people to prayer. But they were sensitive to the year-round folks, so they called a town meeting. That's how we make decisions in Vermont. And people were fine with the idea until the very end of the meeting when the oldest woman in town stood up and spoke for the very first time. She said the last time that bell tolled was to announce the death of our beloved President Calvin Coolidge. To hear that sound once again would simply be too painful, so I'm against it. And then she sat down. And then she stood up and said, well, maybe it was Harding. I've always had certain fantasies. I want to walk out of the bima on Friday night and say, Shabbat Shalom. We begin with the singing of Tov Lahodot. Will the congregation please rise? I didn't say Simon Says. Everyone's doing that. Not say Simon.